Hey, do you want to know the secret of failing in life? I thought this was Personal Development Unplugged and we were going to do personal development and make a success. Yeah, well, you need to know the secret of failing first, don't you? Because if you don't learn that, and we'll learn in this podcast episode the secret of success, of getting what you want, and in some ways maybe just changing your life forever. Now that's got to be important, isn't it? That has. Have a listen after this and you'll learn. Hey, this is the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, where we use hypnosis. Yeah, hypnosis. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Don't worry what it is. It's just a mass of processes that we're going to get you to change. Change to let go of anxiety, low self-esteem, and create massive supreme inner confidence. But that's confidence in your competence and competence in your confidence, which means you can do anything and be safe, to enjoy the world as it should be, with you at the helm, creating the life that you want. That's what this podcast is about. You and being the best you could be, singing from your real voice, aligned with your mission, aligned with your passions. That's what it's about. So if you're interested in letting go of anxiety, if you're interested in letting go of fear, guilt, all those blooming syndromes, imposter syndromes, and every little bit of the mind which is negative, then have a listen here, because we've got some wonderful processes and lots of good conversations between you and me to get us both thinking in such wonderful ways. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Just take the chance to have a listen.
This is Personal Development Unplugged with Paul Clough.
In simplicity, there is genius.
In simplicity, there is genius.
Hey friend, do you want to know the secret of failing? How to fail at life. It's a lovely... Do you really want to know that secret? Is it a secret? Because I don't think it is. But I'm going to tell you the secret, in case you don't know it. And then it won't be a secret. Because secrets... There isn't really a secret. There isn't. But there is a way of failing. Failing at life. And how do you do that? Well, you just let the bloody thing happen. Let life happen. Oh, go with the flow. Just let it go. Just flow along. Do what other people want you to do, their expectations, their beliefs. Because what do they know about you? But it's easier, isn't it? It's easier to just not rock the boat. Well, we'll come to that again in a minute, but it's just easier, isn't it? It's the path of least resistance. But it's maybe a little bit cowardly, I guess. But that's harsh. That's harsh. That is harsh, Cloughie. Sometimes the other way to do it, because if we're going to wait for that perfect moment. Wait for that perfect moment that doesn't exist, by the way. Because there is no such thing as perfect, because you can always be a bit better, and it'll never be perfect, but you can make it as good as it can be. But that's maybe more in the how. But some people will wait, and you've heard them. I've heard them. They're going to do this. You speak to them a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and then you see them in between then and now, and you hear the same bloody stories. What they're going to do, how they're going to do it. But the time's not quite right. So there's always a bloody excuse, isn't there? And it is an excuse. They'll call it a reason, a valid reason why things haven't happened. But it's an excuse. It really is. And you see, because of that, there's always an exception to prove the rule, isn't it? Really? What? An exception to prove the rule? Because there are exceptions. There are exceptions of people going with the flow and it just happened. And they do happen occasionally, but they don't tell you the backstory of all the stuff they did before then and it just happened. It's like the golfer who suddenly just gets pretty good. Oh, it just happened because I practiced a bloody lot. And I kept going and kept going. But that's the back, the back reel, the things that people don't show you. And again, there's always bloody horror stories, isn't there? And they're the horror stories of failures which keep us, well, they keep us from doing this stuff because it, can frighten the bejeebers out of it. And mainly those horror stories come from people who didn't do it, didn't follow their own heart, didn't follow their thoughts, didn't follow, well, we'll come into that, but they didn't. Because it's only the brave who will tell you real, not necessarily the horror stories, but the things they had to endure, to get over, to get round, to put up with. But they always kept what they want and what they wanted in mind because they were working towards it. They weren't going with the flow. They weren't taking other people's expectations, perceptions, projections, their own, other people's limited beliefs because they realized those other people weren't them. They didn't have the same experiences. How could they have? So they can't have the same beliefs. And they chose not to take them, but it's still sometimes a rocky road. So that's a sort of a plus, isn't it? Sort of a plus. But most of this has been pretty down, hasn't it? Telling you the secret of failing. Now, some of you might say, okay, Cloughie, well, we've heard you talk about NLP, and NLP has a presupposition, one of those useful assumptions. And one of those useful assumptions is there's no such thing as failure. And what you've just said is sort of proving the opposite to that, isn't it? Well, actually, no. It's only failure if you don't do what we're going to be musing and talking about. But before we get there, before we get to that bit, I want to keep on this failure lark. Because you see, I just want to give you a couple of examples of me going with the bloody flow, doing other stuff. Because you remember, I think it will be, because I haven't put the number to it yet, but it's probably episode 309, 3010 or 311, something like that. Something like what happens next. I tell you about the goal I created in my head and put it on paper. And it's all about getting a boat. But the bloody thing didn't. That just didn't work. Because what I was doing is I was just going with other people's stuff, what they wanted to do. I didn't pay any attention to what I wanted. I sort of wanted it, but I got persuaded. Yeah, and then, there's an excuse, Cloughie, and it is an excuse because I should have done better. And I learned from it. Oh, don't tell them the answer, Cloughie, don't tell them the answer. You didn't hear that bit, okay? It's a bit like, you won't, if you live in the States, you won't know this one, but it's Dad's Army, which is an old, the home guard, as it were, in the war. And one of the guys goes, if you ever get stopped, don't tell him your name, Pike. Don't tell him your name, Pike. That's an old joke. Anyway, there was another time when I talk about previous lives. And previous lives to me are where I did other things in this life, not a past life regression stuff and all that stuff. And I was in business. And I was sort of doing really well. Pretty well paid. So remunerated, put a lot of effort into it, by the way. I worked absolutely bloody hard. And I was paid well anyway, paid well. And I said to people, I want to go. I want to leave. I want to change. And people kept saying, well, why the hell do you want to do that, Cloughie? You're well off. You're reasonably well off. You're moving on. You're getting financially secure. You're doing all of that. Why the hell do you want to leave something like that? And I sort of caved in because I took on other people's beliefs, perceptions, projections. And that is an excuse, but it's real. That's what I did. And the thing is, I did it half-heartedly then. So I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I really didn't enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying it. I was sort of enjoying it. I was enjoying doing it with the people I worked with, but it had lost its flavour, as it were, because I was looking for this other thing in my life. I really wanted to do that. It was a complete change. And you see, have you had a goal? Listen, I'll come back to that in a minute. But have you had a goal? You had a goal that you've put off. because of what others said or what you've read. People saying, well, that won't work. You're mad. What are you doing? And that created those, that was their limiting beliefs. And I said, well, they're not you. But it's a little bit like infecting your belief too, isn't it? Because you go, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe it won't work. Maybe I'm not the person to do this type of stuff. I'm not the type of person that does that. You take it on. Sometimes it's caused by a thing called I don't know if it's still called this now, but I remember it as tall poppy syndrome. It's where the people around you, they feel secure with you in their group. And as you start to move away, they go, oh, no, come back. We don't want you to go. And they'll give you all the reasons and infect you in a way in your mind. Why not to go? It's like the tall poppy. As you grow, they cut you down, bring you back. And they do that by, again, infecting you with limiting beliefs of what they say. And they give you examples of how other people have failed. And they give you those horror stories, yeah? That's what they do. And you see, then we can give ourselves stories, tell ourselves our own stories, to convince ourselves not to rock the boat. Our own limiting beliefs. I can remember, and this was a start of a lot of it, I wanted to somehow learn NLP. And to do that, the guy I wanted to learn it from told me I've got to do hypnosis. And I didn't want to do hypnosis. In fact, I didn't want to do this people stuff. I just wanted to do it for a different reason. I want to manipulate people. And that's an admission, isn't it? Don't do it now, only for the good. I manipulate people for good to get their changes they want. But the thing is, it took me months to sign up because I was hearing everyone else. Why the hell do you want to do hypnosis, Paul? Hypnosis? Well, it's not even true, is it? Oh, it's all fake. I've seen it on telly. It doesn't work. Why would you want to do that? You've got this well-paid job. Why do you want to take time away? Why do you? Oh, by the way, you don't travel, do you? I had that in mind that Paul doesn't travel. He doesn't leave Cambridge. In fact, I was in a job that was travelling everywhere, but I still had it in my head that Paul doesn't travel. In fact, at this moment in time, I'm living 3 hours away from my children, which does hurt a little bit, but that's what happens sometimes. Love them dearly. I talk to them and keep with them, but Paul doesn't travel. Yes, he does. He moves around a little bit. He does stuff. But that was one of the excuses I was giving myself, so I didn't have to, so I could buy into other people's expectations. Other people say, well, who does bloody hypnosis? It's all weirdos, isn't it? Weirdos does that. I can't even get the words out now. Does that type of stuff. Anyway, I probably thought, I'm being selfish too. Yeah. Have you got something like that? Have you got examples like that in your life? You see, we've all got them. I've got that boat. I've got my career. I've got this blooming hypnosis thing. But the thing is, something changed. And so how do we stop this failure? Because that's what it's all about. It's not the secret of failing. It's this is really the secret of being successful. I'm not going to say not being a failure, because the reason is I do believe there's no failure, only feedback. I buy in completely to that NLP presupposition, that useful assumption. There is no feedback. Sorry, there is no failure. Getting it wrong already. No failure, only feedback. If, and this is my little if in brackets, if you choose to learn from the results you get. You see, there's no failure, there's a result. It might not be the result that you wanted, but you got a result. Whatever you did, you got a result. Now, if you learn from that result, that's the feedback. And therefore, there's no failure, because you're not going to make that mistake again. In fact, it's sometimes a blessing in bloody disguise, or hiding in plain sight, because it just got you to recalibrate. It got you to reassess. How do you learn? My way now, it wasn't back then, but it sort of was, because I used to write loads of stuff in my book. But now I have these dedicated puzzle books. So I'm going to have to produce these out, I think. They're really difficult to do because they're like a book with either line paper in it or plain paper in it. But they're nice books, and some of them are yellow. But anyway, my latest one is black, by the way. But it's a lovely little book. Oh, it's a big book now. And that's the thing. You learn, and if you learn by that result you get, and you move forward. And some of the learnings I nearly swore, whose beliefs am I believing? Whose perceptions and projections am I taking on? You see? Let's give you an example. What did I learn about that boat? The boat that I bought with other people with other people's bloody pushing and stuff like that. Yeah, what did I learn? Well, one thing I learned from that is, no, do it for yourself. If it doesn't feel right, there's a reason for why it doesn't feel right. But you need to explore that. Don't just poo-poo that. That's an English term, I think, poo-poo it. But you have to just think of things. So I looked at that, and what happened, I was doing things for other people and only doing it to make other people feel good, and it didn't make me feel good. So I decided if I was going to buy another boat, and it was strange. I think I've said this before. I used this true story in a weekend seminar my son and I used to do in England. And at one time I was telling this story, went home that night, my dad says, have you ever thought about getting another narrowboat? Because I'd love to get one with you. Now, pressure's on, Cloughie, because you didn't get a good experience before, and Dad wants to do it. Are you going to fall into a trap by just doing it because your dad wants to do it? So I sat and thought, because I didn't really want to do it. I was been bitten, hadn't I? Been bitten. I've got this failure thing. But I thought, no, let's take this on. So I'm into NLP now. I'm training the bloody stuff. So let's just get down to it. You know, what was the result? The result was it didn't work out well. Why didn't it work out well? Because of various things and various people's and my desires for that. And it wasn't there. But this one I thought, well, what would it allow me to do if I did it? Well, it would give me time to be with my dad. Mum had just passed, by the way. Mum had just passed maybe a year before. And Dad and I had a good connection anyway. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice just to, not for ages and ages and ages, but just maybe going away for a weekend and being with him. You know, sitting at the tiller at the back of that narrowboat, chugging away at 3 miles an hour down the canal. And you've got 8 hours. Now, in those 8 hours, you're going to talk. You're going to connect. And I thought, I would really like that. And I also know my dad would really like that. Because he bloody did, by the way. He always told me when we left, he said, I really enjoyed this weekend. It's made my day. And in fact, the other thing is, and this is sort of the thing, he was getting a little bit stuck in the house because of Mum passing. And I thought this might just get him out. And that was me making an excuse for myself. Well, that'll get me out. Get me out to do things. And I'll be doing it with a mate. But he's not a mate, because he's my dad. And Dad's a dad. And I love that. And in the evening, we'd do a little bit of fishing. We'd get a little beer or a little whiskey. Oh, man. But I thought it through before I did it. I learnt from that, I'm doing air quotes, by the way, that failure, that result I got in the past, and I planned it out. And I planned it out in sort of specific detail, but obviously you can't do it in total detail. But I covered every base. I made sure that Dad wasn't going to, it wasn't be a case of it had to be every weekend, because that would have been too much. But he wasn't like that anyway. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be with me every weekend, but we liked to go out together when we did. So you see, you can learn. It's all about learning. All about learning. Okay, what about leaving my career? You see, as I said, it wasn't really working. I was half-heartedly in it. Nothing really changed. And I wanted to change. And so I initially said, which is absolutely bonky, I said I'd like to reduce my time, because I'm going to move out. I will eventually. I didn't know how to do it. So what I did was I started to work less hours in the day, but I worked still the whole week in those less hours. So effectively, I was still working the whole week. And that made me feel worse, because I still wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So nothing had really changed. So I made a plan. Again, I made a plan. What did I really want? And what would it allow me to do? And I went through those things like a well-formed conditions that I talk about, and it's in the hypnosis tracks. You can get them. I'm not going to tell you now where you get them from because you can find it if you listen through. But I made a plan, a well-formed conditions. Have I ever done anything like this before? What's going to allow me to get? What will I lose? What will I gain? Do I know anybody who's doing it? What does it really mean to me? How important it is for me? All this stuff, get my values right. And it meant I was going to work with me and I was going to work with my sons. Man, that was the biggest motivation, the biggest value to me, be able to spend time, again, with my sons. And then, having gone through all the options, found out how I could mitigate, how I could do this. And that's the thing about it, it's about mitigation. The things that you think, well, actually, that might not work. So you mitigate. So I did this with my partner, Mike. I went through the options with him and said, I want to leave. I want to do this. I want to do that. And this is how I plan to do it. And if there's anything you need, I'm going to be here because this plan is fluid. It's sort of specific, but if things change, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that you are, you're kept comfortable and safe in your job. As he said, and he just said, oh, thank fuck for that, Cloughie. Now I can get on and do things. Sorry about the swearing, but that's the sort of thing he said. Because now I can make a plan, and now I've got your back in. I can go ahead and do it, knowing that you're always in the background, Paul, if I need you. And also, likewise, if you need a bit of help and it doesn't work out, you can come back. You can do whatever you want. So we both had a backup, and it worked perfectly. It went perfectly. Okay, now what? Remember that hypnosis thing I went to? This was the start of all of this, really, isn't it? See, I made peace with myself by just thinking about a bit like that change of career. Maybe I learnt it from that hypnosis, things I thought about in hypnosis. I sat down and thought, am I really being selfish? No, I'm learning things. I knew in my heart, something was going to change for the better for me. So I could make peace. But if I did have that guilt, that selfishness, what could I do? Because I have a family. And I'm going to leave them for 2 weeks. Then I thought, it's 2 weeks, Cloughie. It's only 2 weeks. They're not going to fall apart in 2 weeks. You're on the phone. You're going to phone them every night. There wasn't FaceTime at those particular days, certainly on my little old phone, but I could make sure I kept in contact with them. So there was like a bit of mitigation. And then I said, well, it's 2 weeks, but there's a weekend in the middle. I can come back. It's a long drive. But on the Friday when we finish, I can spend all that time drive. And I drove till about 9, 10 o'clock at night, but at least I was there in the evening. And then I was there for the whole of the Saturday, most of the Sunday, and drive Sunday night, back in the Monday morning. So they were only really away for 10 days, not 14. And I made sure that everyone was provided for. And because of that, they were happy for me. They were happy for me to go. They knew something inside me wanted this. Because it was weird, wasn't it? Maybe there are weirdos who go to hypnosis things and NLP. Because I was a weirdo. No, because when I got there, they weren't weirdos. Well, maybe one. They were lovely, supportive people. And you see, the rest is history, because I've done so much. Because of that one decision, make sure it got it right. I've done so much. I've worked with my sons. I still work with my sons. We've been doing it now for, 20 years working together. How good is that? At one time, there was my 3 sons and myself in the same office. Now that takes a bit of doing, but it was awesome. Yeah, I was the butt of their jokes because I was a dad, but they loved me and we did things and we just, and we just did things which were just awesome together. And then I did my trainings with my younger son. I'm still doing them with him, coaching for him, doing all that stuff. I've met so many people. We've had so many experiences, going abroad to train, meeting wonderful people who have taken me to their heart and me to theirs. And everything. It's been so wonderful. And you see, it's all about, as I said, mitigation. You see, the other thing, just before we sort of finish, there's a lovely guy called Seth Godin. And he writes lovely books and he speaks so well. He's such a brilliant mind. His mind is massive. Well, very good anyway. Don't know how massive his head is, but it's pretty good. And I think he said this. He may have said it. And if he didn't, I'm sure he thought it. I know I heard him say it. He said, you rarely regret having done something, but you always regret not having done something. And I thought about that and I thought, that's right, isn't it? Because even if with that NLP presupposition, there can't be a failure, there's only a result, which is feedback, which you're going to learn from, which is going to make things better. So why would you regret doing something? Especially if you're aware. Because you have things like the 5 keys to success, a well-formed outcome. You're looking to mitigate. If you plan things properly, as I did with those other ones, and as you can do, and as you take responsibility for that taking action, having that plan, scheduling it, thinking about it, mitigating stuff, you become a cause. And you can't then regret having done something because you know it's going to be a step towards where you want to go. And therefore you would regret not doing something. Because it might not be the actual thing, when you start to think about it, when you go through it and you go through the scheduling, the thinking and the options, it may change slightly, but you know the direction you want to go. And you might find there's something even better than you thought. Because that happens too. My life has been that way. So I really think that's really good. You rarely regret having done something, but you always, I've always said always, big generalization, but always regret not having done something. So how do you fail at life? We're back to that thing. Having said there's no such thing as failure, how do you fail at life? Well, you fail at life by don't taking responsibility or not taking responsibility, and by listening to others who think they know bloody best. You see, that's it. And it's not failure, it's just not living to your true potential, is it? It's not following your heart. It's not really, well, yeah. But this is what you can do. This is what you can do, because we're always going to finish on the positive. We're going to finish on the how-to. And I've gone through the how-tos, and if you made notes, you'll have got this. Get this, got this. But what you do is set out to know what you want in life. What thrills you, what fills you. Because that's like, when I say set it out as a goal and aim in mind. Oh, not goal setting again. Yeah, everyone's got a goal. Don't give me that bullshit. So, I don't do goals. Yes, you do, because you have a desire, you have a want, you have an intention which has, you decide. You decide not to do things, you decide to do things. There's a goal in every one of them. But this one is an important goal, because it's to do the things that are going to improve your life in such a way that you can't believe. So you set out to know what you want in life. And it could be, we've done it before, and I don't know what it was. I did something about wheels and spokes and things like that, I think. And each spoke or quadrant or whatever is a section of your life, a context of your life. It could be career, it could be relationships, it could be that special relationship, it could be your social life, it could be your health, could be your spirituality, it could be anything, you fill in the blank. But each one of those, there's a goal and goals within them. You don't have to do them all at once, but you're going to have a goal going through life, so you might as well bloody write it down. So you can start thinking about it. Thinking about it in, as I said, the way of a well-formed outcome. That's in a previous podcast, and I can't remember the number, but you'll find it. Just Google it or go to those hypnosis tracks, find well-formed outcome, see the number, and then go back and listen to the episode, because the numbers represent the same. It's only 0.1, something, 0.1, and then you go back. Okay? So you do that. You have a well-formed outcome, because a part of that is you find how it affects others. That's the ecology of it, rather. Ecology. How does it affect others? And then you mitigate it. See, what you also get is to think about how important it is to you. What will it allow you to do? And you make sure that if it is important to you, it'll mean you're going towards something, not running away from something. Because if you're running away from something, you're going to be doing it forever and a day. You've seen people that will keep changing careers or keep changing jobs, and they come up with the same problem. And I've got to move from that job because of that person. And I've got to move to another job. And, there's a similar type person, because they're running away from something and they're not dealing with it. Well, just make sure that you're not running away. I say that again, not running away. But if you're going for something and it's going to make a difference to your life, and it is really important to you, then you can plan the steps. And they don't have to be big steps, do they? They really don't. You can have it timed, because now you're going to mitigate things you're going to gain, things you're going to lose. And you can mitigate those things. So you can make it the best way to make the things happen for you. You know, where have I done this in the past and supposedly failed? How can I learn from those failures, now the results, to make sure this is what I want? Those 5 keys to success. Know what you want, that aim, that goal in mind. Take massive intuitive action, continuous action. And when I say massive, it's massive in those little baby steps, those small steps. Be aware where you're going, to make sure that those mitigation things are working. Make sure you're going towards what you want. Be flexible if you're not. And then act with a philosophy and a physiology of excellence. Act as if you know what you're doing. Act as if you've got it and you'll get it. And because of that, it's all ecological, because it's good. You check out, make sure it's good for you in every shape, way or form. You make sure it's good for others, family, people, everyone. Could be work, could be a career, just like I was with Mike, making sure it's okay for him, making sure it's good for my family, all that stuff. And make sure it's good for planet Earth. And for me, it's been good. My decisions have been good for planet Earth because I've been helping people change. I used to people, when I see them, my mates, they go, have you saved any lives today, this week? Or this week, Paul? Have you saved lives? Because I'm a lifesaver. Because I help people change and change their lives. That's what we do when we go into that hypnosis room of mine. I'm there in this magical way of changing people's lives. I don't make those changes. I guide them to make the change themselves. But I'm part of it. And it's awesome. It fills me with glee, joy. All from those little decisions a long time ago, and yes, along the way, like that hero's journey. I've tripped arse over tit sometimes, but I got back up. That's an English saying again. I don't know how you would say it if you're in the States and things like that, because a lot of people listen from the States and come up with your own one, but you know what I meant. But I got up, and so can you. So I want you. This is my challenge to you. Oh, one thing before I give you my challenge. When we train NLP practitioners, we always used to find the people who really wanted to become a therapist, they wanted to leave us on the Sunday, and on the Monday, chuck their job in and become that therapist there and then, because it felt so good. And we stopped them because we said, yeah, you're going to do it. And a lot of people have, through our trainings, become really good therapists. So you're going to do it, but, and there is a but, don't fuck it up. Do it properly. Go through what you've learned, that well-formed outcome. Go through to make sure that you can cover all your bases. How long do you want as a transitioning? Are you going to be able to find the clients? How are you going to find the clients? Where are you going to do the work? What about family, friends? What about your responsibilities, financial, and things like that? How are you going to do this? And so many people then just plot their way into that type of work. So I want you to do the same type of thing. I know you could well be an NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, or hypnotherapist wannabe. I suggest that to you. But you'll have something similar, I guess, that will affect yourself, others, and the world. So just, if you would, go for it, but go for it in the right way. Then share. This is the whole point about this is, once you do that, share what you've learned, share what you do, share your successes, celebrate them. And the success is learning from those supposed failures, those results you got. Share them with everybody, because they get to learn through your actions. So they don't have to go through it again themselves. That's why we read books. That's why we learn these things. You can learn something in an hour that took someone 10 years to come up with. But you get that all in 1 hour. Awesome. That's what it's about, sharing. And talking of sharing, what are you going to do? Share this podcast with everybody, please, if you would. If that's okay. If it's appropriate. Appropriate? If it's appropriate, please share it with your friends, colleagues, anybody you think needs a little bit of a oomph to make their life the life that they'll be proud of and people would be proud of too. If you do that, that would be absolutely awesome. I want to thank you. I am so grateful for your time, allowing me to share my prattling on. Sorry about the swear words. I hope that didn't offend, just the way I am sometimes. But hey, thank you so much for your time. It's so appreciative of me. I appreciate it. And let me know sometimes just by emailing me feedback at Personal Development Unplugged. Just let me know how you're getting on. Let me know your thoughts, a bit of feedback. And if there's anything you want me to look at or share with you on that, just do it on that email and I will come up with some goods for you. Okay? But until then, with all you haven't got time to waste. You've got to share and you've got to get this thing going. So it's time to fly. Enjoy the flight. Ta-da.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.